So will brick and mortar disappear? Brick and mortar retail being in-person retail stores, your Best Buys, your Walmarts, even your grocery stores, your UPS stores, whatever the case might be. Will it all disappear someday? I think there's a very solid possibility that it will. And before anybody freaks out, I'm just saying that this is a possibility. I have no crystal ball. I have no way to see into the future. I have no way to predict what could happen. But I definitely believe that there's a solid possibility that we could lose these. And some people are going to say, well, wait a minute, don't we need these for jobs? Even though most of them are minimum wage, don't we still need them so people can have some form of work? And the answer is you would think so, but it's far cheaper for companies to implement some sort of automation within these stores. So these stores will either be fully automated or they'll just go bankrupt. Just recently, Bed Bath & Beyond announced its bankruptcy, which was very surprising to me because it was a very solid store for home goods. You know, there was all sorts of great kitchen supplies, bedroom supplies. They had a baby section that was really solid. You could find a lot of really fun and neat stuff. It was one of the stores I liked going into the most. And, you know, back when my mom used to drag me around to different stores that she liked to go to, it was one that I actually looked forward to because there was always something that fascinated me. And now it's just completely gone. And a lot of people said, well, it was too expensive, so that's why they didn't shop. And they had a website as far as I understand, but they never really pivoted to being website focused. A lot of companies haven't. They build a solid website, but they don't emphasize stuff like home delivery, which is why Amazon is pretty much dominating the market. Amazon has a near monopoly on retail, especially online retail. Wouldn't be surprised if they get a couple calls from the government, but also I wouldn't be surprised if they ignore those calls and then show up to places in DC with buckets of money. So all of that being said, yeah, I do think it'll disappear. I mean, if Sears, which was the retail giant, can disappear because they couldn't pivot to online, then no one is safe. If malls can disappear, then nobody is safe. Brick and mortar retail is absolutely in danger of disappearing. The only thing that'll keep it is if people start to rally for it to be kept and for it to be able to produce jobs. The only way it's going to be able to stay is if you can make the case that it produces jobs and people start using it. Either they start doing in-store pickups for orders more, or they just choose to go out to actually look at the product in person more. That's something you can't do online. You can't look at the product in depth. I mean, they can say, oh, you get a VR headset. It's not actually there. I like seeing the thing out of the box. If I'm going to buy a KitchenAid mixer, I want to look at the KitchenAid mixer out of the box, and I want to be able to see what it looks like and what I'm going to get. If I'm looking at clothes, I want to see what the clothes look like. I might want to try them on. A lot of people will get clothes off of Amazon, try them on, realize they don't fit, send them back, and then go through that whole song and dance over and over and over again. It's a process that takes days and is incredibly wasteful. In-person clothing stores, I think we're going to see a boom of brick and mortar clothing stores because they're going to realize how wasteful it is to just do that online, unless you absolutely know what size you are. But things run big and small, and there's all that sort of thing by the way they're manufactured. Ow. Just slammed my finger against my desk. But there's a hassle with online too. You know, not everybody has next day delivery, so you might be waiting days for your product. Amazon's really good about it only being a couple days depending on what it is. But there are times where I got orders pushed back several times just waiting to try to get it. When I got Pac-Man World, it got pushed back I think almost a month. And I was like, okay, I'm not doing this again. It's ridiculous. They're not efficient. And the more people use it, the less efficient it's going to be because they're going to have to fulfill more orders, even with automation. So I don't want physical brick and mortar to disappear, not just because I grew up with it, but because I think it's still a better system to supplement online. And that's what it's going to have to be. And it's better for our economy. It's better for the job market. You know, it's already bad enough when I go to a grocery store and half of the grocery aisles have been torn out for automation. The grocery store I used to work at did that, and it's really depressing because now they don't hire cashiers. Not that I envy the cashier position. That is a very tough position in the modern day to hold. I'm all for automated when it comes to that sort of thing, so they don't have to put up with miserable people. I get that. Although I like customer service. I know how to turn a person's day around. But I know a lot of people don't enjoy that experience, so I completely understand where they're coming from. But it's still a job. It's still money in people's pockets, and it's a lot easier of a job than a lot of other things. And some of them pay pretty well with this new $15 an hour minimum wage. So There is a big danger of it disappearing, and I think we should be worried about it. I think we should be fighting to preserve some of it. When Bed Bath & Beyond went out, I was surprised to see how many people were like, oh, good riddance, online anyway. And I'm like, you do realize you're sacrificing your ability to get in your car and go somewhere. There's going to be a day where you can't, if you keep advocating for this, there's going to be a day when you can't get in your car and go somewhere. You're going to be stuck in your house. You're going to have cabin fever for the rest of your natural life. Kids are going to be born with built-in cabin fever. They're going to go nuts. There's going to be less and less places in the world to go. It's been something that's been bothering me. When I went into Best Buy the other day, just looking at how little inventory they have. You know, there's barely any reason to go in the stores. You know, you go to the video games and there's barely a kiosk that does anything. There's just a video that plays. You don't even get to play demos anymore. It's not what it used to be. There's no experience anymore. I think it all started with the demise of Blockbuster. That's when we should have known we were going to start to lose everything. Every retail experience that we loved, we were going to begin to lose because the internet was just dominant throughout. I mean, at that point, it was just Netflix mailing people DVDs, but it was also becoming digital. We were beginning to lose all of it, and we're still losing all of it. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that's not to say it'll disappear entirely. That's just one theory of mine. I think that at one point, we will see a massive resurgence of retail as there's more of a desire for it because people will have not much to do. You know, I always say it's sad when shopping malls close. I looked and I Googled, you know, why are shopping malls failing? And I get threads of people saying, oh, they're outdated. There's no reason to go to them. It's unsafe anymore with all of the mass violence, for lack of a better term. But the reality is that they're community experiences. And when we lose community experiences, we become worse people as a result. I truly believe that. We're not creating the thing about like a Jetsonian future. In the Jetsons, despite how much automation there was, people still went places. They still operated vehicles. We're getting to the point where automation is making it so that we barely have to do anything or go anywhere. It's going to make us like the characters in WALL-E. That was one of the things about WALL-E that was I rolled my eyes when I first saw it, but then I was like, wait a second. There's some underlying truth to that, isn't there? We're going to become a bunch of blobs who have to remember how to walk. You know, it's crazy. I hate that. So I'm all for preserving shopping malls, strip malls, brick and mortar stores, independent brick and mortar stores, both corporate and independent. I want to get back to that level of economy. I don't want everything to just be online. I want online to be a force for sure. But I mean, it's ridiculous. DoorDash makes it so you don't have to go to any of these restaurants. And I went to KFC the other day. It was empty, and they had reopened their dining room, but it was a shell of its former self because people were just getting DoorDash, and the pandemic ruined all of that, and people never went back. But I think it's time that people started going back and actually having in-person experiences. But you've got an entire generation that's way too afraid to even do it because of all the things they're seeing on the news and because of just the awkward nature of actually interacting with people face to face. They're terrified of other people. They're terrified of interaction. Only a handful of people aren't, but a lot of people are. They can't look you in the eyes because they're too terrified of what your response might be to them. I smile at people, even if it gets awkward, and they smile back. You can tell it's an awkward smile. They're like, oh, I don't know what to make of you. It's like, were you staring at me? Were you not staring at me? It's like, no, I was just looking in your general direction at something on the shelf and you happen to walk past. It happens. It's been happening ever since I was born. So I don't know why you're making a big deal about it, but we are really fast approaching a draconian future that I don't really want to be a part of. I don't want to wake up one day and find, oh, hey, I can't go to Walmart anymore. I can't go to my local grocery store anymore. I can't go to whatever anymore. We need in-person experiences back. We absolutely do. Yes, there's drawbacks of in-person experiences. Nobody likes going to a place when it's overly busy and when you're shoulder to shoulder with people. Nobody likes standing in line for 30, 40 minutes just to get stuff checked out. Nobody likes, being in a place where the air conditioning breaks in the middle of summer and then you have to do all of your shopping in a place just sweating your eyes out. Nobody wants to put up with screaming kids in restaurants because people don't know how to control their kids. I get all of that. But at the end of the day, you don't just lose the bad experiences, you also lose the good. And too many people focus on the bad experience and say good riddance, and they don't focus on the good. I can't tell you how many times I follow nostalgic pages on Instagram and you'll see people in the comments talking about, if there's a picture of old Pizza Hut, they'll talk about their childhood memories with that, and what the dining rooms used to look like, and what the salad bar was like, and how kind the wait staff was, and how much fun of an experience it was to go as a family. And then they started adding TVs and stuff. You could see what was on TV. They had arcade machines. The kids could play at the arcade machines. It was just a whole bunch of fun. It was a nice family experience. What we're doing is we're isolating people at home, and then we further isolate ourselves on our devices. So if families want to have a fun Friday night, it's like Friday nights don't mean anything anymore. Friday nights used to be the nights where people would either go out or they would sit around the TV together as a family, and now we're losing all of it, for the sake of our own stupid and lazy convenience. It irritates me to no end. It really does. I miss the way things used to be, if it wasn't already clear with my nostalgia video, which is done very well, thank you to all of you. That video really struck a chord with a lot of people, and I'm still blown away by the response that generated. I just did that because I was sharing from the heart how I feel about today versus yesterday. Today sucks. I'm thankful for the gift of life as anybody, but our culture sucks, and it's because we're lazy, and we're arrogant, and we're self-absorbed, and a lot of us claim to be introverted and afraid of other people when we don't need to be. I'm not saying you need to trust every stranger you come across. I've been on this planet long enough to know that that's not a good philosophy. But I understand that you need to build people skills. You don't do that by sitting at home all the time. Already I do it too much as it is. I did it all throughout my teens, all throughout my 20s. Not for lack of trying, mind you, but it's just how it ended up being, and it was a miserable experience. I feel like I wasted my 20s in many ways, and my teens. But I still got out more then than I do now, because there's really nothing to do now. Now that I'm in my early 30s, it's like, what is there to do? Where is there to go? Where on earth is there to go? Bars? Be around people who are just drunk? No thank you. That's not a good social experience. That's just miserable people who are out of their mind. That's an experience that I can see easily disappearing, and that's been an experience for hundreds of years, all the way back to taverns. But you've got a generation who, by and large, aren't interested, and a lot of generations who aren't interested in that. You barely have generations who want to engage in any sort of partying because of all the trouble that can happen. Things are changing at such a rapid pace, it's very hard for me to ever recognize where it is that we're at as a culture, or if we even have a culture. It's so crazy. But it's not looking like a good future if we get rid of all of this stuff that allows us to interact with each other outside of a screen. If we get rid of all of that, we're doomed. Our kids' development are going to be stunted. They're going to have all sorts of emotional problems. They're not going to have good face-to-face interaction. I remember when I first moved to Pennsylvania and started to try to make friend groups with people, I tried asking them, what do you think about calling people? Oh, I never call people. I always text people. There was always texting. This was 2008. And I remember thinking to myself, I used to call my friends all the time so we could talk on the phone. And there used to be a debate as to what was healthier to do. It was healthier for communication skills to be able to actually speak and be able to use your actual vocabulary and lexicon. Which you can with texting, I'm sure, but it's not quite the same. And it was already causing problems because that was the beginning of people being on their phones all the time, was just endless texting. And then that evolved into social media and just constant internet use. It just became worse and worse and worse. It had a big snowball effect. To the point where many people just physically can't cut themselves off, especially young people. Young people are addicted at a younger age. It's harder to pry them away from their devices. It's really sad. But that's what's happening in our culture. We just put kids in front of an iPad or whatever, and that's it. And then that's what they're like for the rest of their life. I'm not saying that all technology is bad, far from it, but we live off of it, and society is starting to conform to the fact that we live off of it. And we're losing society. We're substituting society for fake. It's really miserable. It's a really miserable and depressing concept. I wake up almost every day, and I go on my phone. I'm like, why can't I get off this stupid thing? Oh, that's right, because there's really nothing else to do this early in the morning. Or when there's nothing else to do. It's ridiculous. And people have less and less of a social life. I'm seeing dynamics shift in such dangerous ways that I can't really fathom. And it's really discouraging to me. And I really hope that at some point in the future, society makes a shift back to resembling something what it was. You know, I talk about the late 90s and early 2000s all the time and how we were so disconnected, yet we were so unified around very simple things. Television. Not everybody was glued to the television screen. There was still stuff to go out and do. And more often than not, parents wanted us to turn off the TV, turn off the video games, go out and do stuff. And we did. We went and jumped on our trampoline. We swam in our pool. We were fortunate enough to have both. We would go on trips to Walmart. Going to stores was an event. It was fun. Go to stores, then go to a restaurant, and you felt satisfied at the end of that day that you had gone out and you had done something fun with your family. Even if you argued the whole car ride up and the whole car ride home or something like that. You still felt satisfied. You still felt like you had a full day. These days you spend all your day on your phone, you look up and the sun's gone down. Your whole day is gone. And that's one of the things we lose with brick and mortar retail. It's just another sign of our society just becoming pod people. And I'm tired of it. I don't want to live in a pod. I don't care how much, it's more affordable. Bull crap. I don't care. I'm a human being. I was raised in an analog culture that became a digital culture. My generation, the millennials, were the last generation to experience a purely analog culture. It's one of the most depressing things, one of the most depressing realities I've ever had to come to grips with. Because we can't ever truly go back unless we get EMP'd or something. Unless something completely damages our internet systems and we have to start rebuilding in-person experiences. We have to start rebuilding our technological base. And even then, it'll be going right back to digital. It won't be to analog and then we go back to digital and do the same thing over again. It's ridiculous. It really is. But as a result, everything has declined, you know? People are huge advocates for physical media. I've become an advocate for physical media. That's why I went and bought a Blu-ray player. But companies just don't care about it, and they're starting to use it as just a special edition thing as opposed to a standard way to make money. It used to be you could buy something on whatever format you want. VHS, DVD, Laserdisc, whatever the heck. Now it's just Blu-ray and occasionally DVD, I guess. Surprisingly, records have made a big comeback. I took a picture the other day of the records section in Walmart. It wasn't much, but I mean, it was impressive that there was actually stuff there, and it felt like there was some life in the store again. It was really cool. I'll have the picture up on screen. It was crazy. But it's just sad to me to go into these shops knowing they have what people need, so they'll still have business, but they're fast becoming extinct. And there are people who are cheering that on. I'm like, you don't know what you're advocating for. You don't know what we're losing. Younger generations don't have any point of reference, so they don't care. It doesn't matter to them. Older generations understand that this is an important experience that has been built up over decades, that has created a community experience. Even if you're not making best friends with everybody around you, you're still being around other people. You're still in a healthy environment outside of your own home. But again, it's all changing so rapidly to the point where I think we're going to do serious damage to our species. We really are. Some people might argue that those experiences were doing damage to our species. I disagree. I think the opposite is happening now. I think we're becoming pseudo-robots, and it's crippling us. It's crippling our ability to interact with each other, to make physical transactions with cashiers and all of that. We're just dealing with robots. Everybody's like, oh yeah, I future, it's going to be wonderful. We're not going to have to work as much. Yeah, and we won't be able to afford as much. We'll have to start begging the government for money, becoming reliant on the government that already doesn't have any money. Screw that. Absolutely screw that. It's one thing if somebody needs genuine assistance in their life, maybe they're physically or mentally disabled. I understand that stuff, and that's where technology is great for those people. But for your average able-bodied person, they're willingly substituting their able-bodiedness to not be able-bodied, to rely on AI, to rely on technology to do everything for them. No, don't go to a restaurant. Pay extra and use DoorDash, use Uber Eats. I'm not saying these things are inherently bad, but people are relying on them. I don't want to get in my car. I don't want to drive. I don't want to go to this blah, 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 blah. This whole shift to electric cars is just going to kill Cars. Plain and simple. There's no way we can support the infrastructure. There's no way. Oh, we'll make more wind and solar. No, you need nuclear. Excuse me. And then all the charging stations you're going to have to make. You don't think this is horrible for the environment? Way worse than what we're doing now. Are you kidding me? We've made things as clean as they could possibly get, and it's still not enough for the freaking government. They want to ban gas stoves, they want to ban dishwashers, they want to control every aspect of what it is that people do. And that's not a conspiracy, that's their own stated goals, because they want to save the environment. And then people go, well, I love the environment, so I want to go along with it. I saw people who I know say they want to do that. I think they're idiots. Let the government come in and control everything you do and make your life miserable. Unbelievable. People who are willing to sacrifice their security for comfort don't deserve either. It's ridiculous. I don't know where things are going. I mean, I have hope for the future for people who will insist on still doing as much as they can, but I mean, the corporate world is shifting towards the internet. They see their opportunities there, and they're not going to let that go. They're just not going to let that go. So let me know what you think about the death of brick and mortar retail. Do you think it's doomed? How much time do you think it has have left? I completely botched that. Just let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Absolutely. So I will see you guys in the next Koopa Talks. God bless. Have a good one. Peace.